Hey everybody, welcome to this next episode of the Vortex. Everybody has a vortex and I want to know about yours. Today we have an amazing guest. It's somebody that I really resonate with. We do similar things. We've gone into the records before, so we love chatting. It's like talking shop here in our spiritual vortex workshop. Maria Serbus, she's a past life healer, intuition coach, and speaker. She's a former occupational therapist and nervous system regulation expert, now turned Akashic Records past life healer. She helps female coaches, leaders, and entrepreneurs heal their subconscious limiting beliefs to up level your life in business. Welcome, Maria.
Hello, hello. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, thanks for coming on. You know what I love about your bio is that you are a former occupational therapist. And what I love is that so many people in the medical field, whether you're like occupational therapist, nurses, respiratory therapists, dietitians, doctors, PAs, whatever your title is, like in that service industry, in that like life of service, so many of us have shifted into this kind of work because we are tired. We're tired of being taken from. We want to make a difference. We want
Yes.
to heal people. And more than likely, we were healers in a past life. That's what I find. Like I have yet to meet somebody in the medical field or in that type of industry that was not a healer in their past life. How about you?
Agreed. Agreed 100%. And I find it so interesting that the same in the last 3 to 5 years, I feel like a lot of us are unfortunately leaving the traditional practice area because there's a yearning for more.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, and you just mentioned, like I know that you also were from healthcare, but I think I was getting so frustrated with our medical model and our medical system that it's really just like sick care, right? Like you just have to wait until you're at rock bottom and
Mhm.
then you qualify for services or and then insurance will cover or whatnot. And so I was just like, I want to be able to do more and support more people, but not have to wait to see them until they're in the hospital, until they're in an
Right.
inpatient mental health facility. So I think a lot of us are just seeing like, oh my gosh, we can be doing so much more. And I appreciate all my colleagues. Like I still have a lot of friends who still work at Mayo Clinic locally here in town. They
Of
do
course.
great work.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for our healthcare providers that are still, working on the more traditional side because I realize we need that as well. But we need both, other healing modalities as well.
Yeah, and like once you open that door, like it's so insane. Like it's so much. It's so intense the amount of information that comes through. And like we're recording this podcast before Christmas, like December, mid-December of 2024, and we're coming off the heels of the Luigi Mangione shooting the UHC healthcare CEO. And
Mhm.
like I would definitely do not condone anybody taking someone's life, but there's like an obvious disenchantment with how
Yes.
things are going because you mentioned like, oh, sometimes you have to be at rock bottom for you to receive healthcare. And sometimes you don't even receive healthcare at that point. It's like, nope, deny, deny, deny.
Yep.
So if we can like catch people in this time, in this movement, and going forward in this way, like what difference can we make? And I
Yes.
struggle with that still. Like I still wrestle with that because obviously we are paid for our services. We have to be paid to support our vortex and to support the
Yes.
healing and work that we're meant to do and to shift the world. And so
Yes.
then it becomes exclusive, right? Then it becomes something that only people with the means to do so can utilize. So
Yes.
agree, there's so much more out there. And then of course, like once we kind of mainstream this and like lay the foundation and lay the path, then we can start to incorporate it just in our like everyday life.
Yes. And I truly believe too. I mean, I know that that can be hard for a lot of us when we go off into like our own private practice, coaching practice, healers, whatnot. There is that like, oh, but I want to be able to help everyone, right? That's why we went into a service-based industry to begin with. You would love to be able to give it all away for peanuts. And sometimes we have that ability, right? Everybody's financial situation is different. And other times you do need to charge what your services, what that investment would be. But I also believe too, I think each of us have different set of circumstances, have different communities that we're creating. So I also love that as more people go into whatever this alternative holistic healing realm, there are some people who are making breathwork apps so that like,
Yeah,
you could
yeah,
just
yeah.
hop on and get a breathwork session and it's maybe for $30 or less of a membership or something. Um, I think people are creating different systems too to try to make this world more accessible. And I appreciate that. I think like we each have a different role to play in that too.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, my friend does have a breathwork app. I don't know if you have a breathwork app, but my friend is Awakening with Allie and she's got one. It's like fantastic. And I guess I never really thought about it like that. That's like a new framework. That's a new structure. And it's like
Yeah.
your gateway as you move forward through your healing journey.
Yes, yes. I don't know. To be honest, I was like literally just listening to a podcast, and I'm trying to remember whose podcast it was, but they were referencing they had someone on who had a breathwork app. And it was
Yeah.
kind of in that moment too that I was like, again, I think there's all these different entry points that someone at different investment levels, that they can make in their own health that they're able to, do. I also think for those of us who are service-based industry, we become healers. I feel like I think each of us has a reason why we're in this lane
Mhm.
or in this journey and navigating. I know for me, while I currently primarily focus on entrepreneurs, leaders, change makers, I can see there being an evolution where while this is where I'm at right now, I would love to be able to do more to support international adoptees because that's what I am.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And again, I know that everybody doesn't have the same means and access and things. So I just know like this is one stage of my journey. And once I get to a more secure financial place, I know that I can then kind of take on my next mission, which is to provide to bring more equitable services to that population. So I
Yeah.
love how like it can evolve.
Yeah, it's all step in the journey. And of course, you and I know that when whatever your means are, when you make that step to change, when you're in that yes mode of your life, like anything's possible. So there
Yeah.
is no lack, there is no scarcity, there is abundance all around. It's just when you're
Yeah,
like able to say yes and commit to that change moving forward. So in your
absolutely.
world, like what is your role now? Like what are you doing? What's your stepping stone? How are you working with these high level entrepreneurs? Give us the deep. What's up?
Yeah, so I have found my passion and something that I believe I've done in past lives and something that I feel really comfortable with is I love going into past lives. And I
Mm,
love supporting women with overcoming their past life blocks.
nice.
In particular, I love supporting women in their intuitive development. So I found like for my own journey, I had like all of these blocks around tapping into my intuition. Can I access my own power? Can I access
Mhm.
my own light? There was a lot of fear around that.
Yeah.
I was also raised in the Catholic Church. So I think there was
Whoa,
also a lot of
whoa. We're all
religious
converts.
programming. Yes. So I didn't realize how that came with its own subset of subconscious conditioning of what I'm allowed to do and whether I can access my power and my intuition. So I found for myself when I dove into subconscious reprogramming and past life healing, it's like everything opened up. I realized like, whoa, like my third eye is uncapped.
Yeah.
I am a channel again. I can remember. And so I have a group healing program called Higher Self Awakening.
Hmm.
And so it walks women through in a 10-week journey, doing the subconscious reprogramming, doing the past life healing to really uncover when they almost like when we gave up our power, when it was either not safe, we were maybe fear of persecution, something happened
Hmm.
and we forgot or we put a cap on accessing our own light. And so
Right.
I really love helping connect women back with that light through the healing.
Amazing. What's the craziest past life story to current life problem connection you've seen?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, part of the main reason why I jumped into this, as much as like, yes, I love the business side, I love helping the business, was my role here as a mother.
Okay.
So I had my son, and so I just have one child. He's now 6. But when I had him and he was kind of during those toddler ages,
Yeah.
I was seeing how difficult it was for me to regulate in those moments. Like,
What? I find it so easy. I'm just kidding. They're the worst. Like I love my kids to death, but toddlers are just, gosh, they just have a lot of feelings.
they have a lot of feelings, and you don't realize how motherhood is this initiation of it really shows all of your stuff and your
Stuff.
wounds and
Ooh,
things
lots
like
of
that.
stuff.
Lots of stuff. And so what's interesting is that's kind of where I started my own healing journey was I was like, I'm getting so triggered right now. I need to do something to be a better mom because I'm really struggling with self-regulating myself.
Right.
So it started just with doing some subconscious reprogramming. However, when I went into a past life to also further investigate the relationship with my son, I realized that, we've known each other many different times before, but there was a certain lifetime where, I knew him. and also like my husband, and we were kind of like comrades or amigos in this lifetime. And ultimately, like we were kind of like mercenaries or people who would go out and do odds and ends jobs for the palace or whatever it was. And, someone made a decision and we all ended up dying in that lifetime. So there was a lot of trust issues to
Mm,
work out. And I could see how that was playing out in our current family unit, and especially even just with me and my son. So
right.
it's been doing a lot of that healing, not just from this life, but also past lives to release my soul from like being stuck and being looped in that moment in time.
Yeah. It's like, okay, so for me, this is just my personal experience. I have definitely
Yeah.
experienced the power of a past life healing. But what
Hmm.
I find, and I think I'll go, let me go deeper into this since I explain what my
Yeah.
train of thought. For me, when I experience my past lives that are coming up, they
Hmm.
don't really heal me. For
Hmm.
some people, it's so, they're like, oh my God, I can see how that's playing out. Now I know why I'm making a decision. Now I know why that loop is occurring. And like, here's what I'm going to do moving forward. It's so powerful. So I'm not diminishing that, but I just want to
Yes.
state, like, for me, I was like, okay, now what? Like I was like, okay, I know that this is messed up. Like I can see it.
Yes.
And it's like you
Yes.
could tell me there was like one certain situation with my partner. It was like, well, then this past life, this happened, this past life, and this past life. And I was like, okay, and it's happening today. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So
Yes.
it's cool. Like I'm saying that just for anybody listening, if you're like, well, why would past life work for me? It's like if you've
Yeah.
tried things and it's not moving the needle for you, like past life is just another tool in the intuitive
Yes.
practitioner's toolbox that's so
Yes.
helpful. Because for some
Yes.
people, it's like literally night and day.
Yes. And I want to say, so actually, you bring up a really good point is that a past life regression and a past life healing are not the same. So
Okay.
I have a problem with like people who do past life regression. I think there's certain modalities and techniques, and again, like to each his own. But I do think there is a way where you go to past lives and you just see them. It's like barraged in front of you.
Yeah.
This. And then it's meant to be like, oh, okay, so now you know that. Good luck. Good job.
Sure, sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so I personally don't, and also I think like past lives can be like brain candy. They can just
Mm,
be like another thing that your brain wants to like spin out on and be like, ooh, that's cool. Oh, I wonder how this is. So that's fine. Personally, though, with the modality that I use, we don't just go back just to go back and like peruse through and look through.
okay.
Because for me personally, I'm like, I want to heal this. I don't want to just know it just to know it.
Yeah.
So my mentor is Amy Robeson. And so she does like with the Akashic Records, you can learn how to do soul reading, channeling, but then you do healing.
Hmm.
And so what I like about it is when I'm taking a client, like if we're being guided to go to a past life, there is a healing process that we do there because ultimately the soul is getting fragmented in loops and it's
Yes.
looping and looping and looping these unconscious programs. So I tell my clients if we're going back to visit a past life, we're not just going to like go hang out and then like pop back and do nothing.
Yeah.
We deliver a healing. We often call in like their starseed galactic family to
Hmm.
release them from oaths, contracts, vows, conscious and subconscious loops that are playing.
You are my first guest to say Starseed Galactic. Thank God. Here we go.
Yes, yes. So we invite them in, and then also if I'm called to, I'll use a technique called theta healing, which is just a belief shifting modality. So basically, when we're in the past life, we shift, we reprogram, we figure out what's going on so that we can release it, so that when the person comes back, they actually feel like it's kind of a mix of it's a bit of a soul retrieval because we want to retrieve that aspect of them and bring back their sovereignty, but
Hmm.
we're also healing anything that happened in that timeline. So
Okay.
that's my preference
Beautiful.
versus I feel like I would get frustrated if I was in a session with someone where it's like, oh, sweet, you just like cracked me wide open. You showed me all this stuff. And now
Yeah.
what? So I
Like,
think that
man.
healing piece is important.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
now you said that I have been in past life regression where it's been the showing, and I've been in past life regression healing where it's like, okay, well, now we're going to heal these parts of your soul.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
guess at the time I didn't really think of them as separate, but of course they're separate.
Yeah. And I also think too, and not to say again, like it's more my own preference, and it's not to knock. I do think different people, depending on where they're at in their journey, it might just be helpful just to view it, right? Just to go in and see and
Yeah.
just do a past life regression, get some insight, and then come back. Again, I think I think we're all on a journey. And so if that's something that someone has
Yeah.
called into their sphere, right? It's like, that's fine. But to know that there is a difference too.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, okay, past life, Akashic, different, right? Like for you,
Yep.
okay. So tell us about the work you do in the Akashic Records. Like, what's that like? What is if a client comes to you and it's like, I want to know my Akashic Records? What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you take them on? That's like my, I get that question often. And I obviously it's like, I get so many DMs a day, I can only respond to so many. So this will be a good like streamline of information. Yeah.
So good. So good. And I'm also like, yeah, I'm so curious to like, as we continue to get to know each other, learn more about how you use them, because I think that's the beauty of the Akashic Records.
Hmm.
There's so many different magical ways we can use that energetic blueprint of that person.
Yeah.
How I was kind of taught is I separate it. It's either that the person might come to me just for a reading where they have a couple of questions, some things that are going on in their life, and I tap into their records. We open them in ceremony with the person with me, and then I can just channel insight for them on XYZ questions that they have.
Okay.
Um, and then I also do like an Akashic healing. So that's where when I do an Akashic healing with someone, we're going on an interactive experience
Okay.
with their Akashic records open. And that's where it could sometimes be going into a past life. So I'm doing
Mhm.
the past life healing within the records with the records open, and their guides are telling me where we're going, what timeline we're going into. And the person's actually going to also see and experience through their own clairs
Mm.
wherever it is we have to go clear and heal. But also the Akashic Records healing could look like we're going in and we're going to do some type of healing for the chakra. It could be that we're going to go in and we're going to do some work with their inner child or ego. So it's not always going to a past life timeline. It just depends what the person wants to work on and then how their guides guide me once their records are open.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I do it a little differently. I actually will do like, same thing, open ceremony. But for me, it's a lot of people come to me with business questions like, tell me about my programs, tell me about like, I want more clarity. I want this. I don't
Yes.
know how many people, I don't know this. I want it. Or sometimes they'll say like, I want confirmation that it's going to be this, this, this. And then
Yes.
we go in the records and we do the opening ceremony and we do work with the Star Seed family as well. I call it like Ascended Masters, Highest Light Council.
Yeah.
Some people don't
Yeah.
love the word star seed or intergalactic. So it's a
Yes.
like, the intention is
Yep.
there and it's all about creating that expansion so that all supporting guides are present for the
Yes.
ceremony, right?
Yes.
So then what happens is I take them into the space and we open the Akashic records, simulate their vagus nerve, and I actually have them channel to me. And so
Ah,
sometimes that can get, they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, release, release. And I mean, 9 times out of 10, they begin to channel. And it's so crazy. The stuff that comes through is like, first of all, a lot of them didn't know they could channel. So it's like,
yep.
okay, yep, empowering. And then the
So
second thing
powerful.
is that like, they'll come to me and they'll say like, okay, I know I'm supposed to charge, you know, 666 per month for 4 coaching calls with me. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, like that's a lot of work for like not a lot of like coming back, right? It's like what is that, like 150? I don't know. Anyways, I'm not very good
Yeah.
at math, not my strong suit. Anyway, so
Yeah.
what ends up happening is it's like actually you're supposed to charge 999 per call, or like actually you're supposed to have this many people. And in that moment, I think that many people are validated. I'm sure you've had like, coaching containers aside, where they're
Yes.
validated in the records because like that's not even on their frame of reference. That's not even in their scope or like what they expected. And the information that they're
Yes.
receiving is shocking. And so some people come in and they think like, okay, we'll just pull some stuff out of my subconscious, or maybe I'll get a little bit more clarity. But what
Yep.
actually happens is that you enter and it's like, holy shit, like I didn't even know that's like what, and it can take a little bit to integrate that into their nervous system too. So it's like
Yeah.
I pull from up here and then I integrate from here to get them that unified result.
Yes. Yes. And you can kind of see too how, right? Like people come in and their concept, let's say we're talking business, their concept is like, oh, at most I would ever only charge 100 a visit or whatever, right? They're coming
Right.
in with kind of like their own subconscious programming about money and about what they should charge. And it's so like it's beautiful how probably it's surprising to them how when they're actually channeling, they're realizing, oh, it's way more than that. But our human self, our human ego puts all of these limits,
Yeah.
right? And like,
So
no,
many.
we can never do that. Or, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
What would people think? Ugh.
yeah. And it shows them what's possible when you tap into your own inner intuition, when you tap into your own higher self. It's like there are no limits and bounds in that world, right?
There are, yeah, literally zero. And what's
Yeah.
true, like what's cool, and I think it goes for both of our ways. So if you have them channel, I have my people, or you channel for them, I channel for my people,
Mhm.
whatever. Higher conscious, super conscious will only allow what needs to come through for their highest good. So
Yes.
whereas you like may assist, like where you bring them through the journey and then they kind of interject information, sometimes from my side, they bring me through the journey and then spirit shows me where I need to interject to like show them what needs to be done. I've even had messages come through. Like
Yes.
I did a client session the other day and she kept saying, put a pin in it, put a pin in it. And I kind of laughed. And she was like, what the fuck does that mean? And I laughed because that was for me to trigger her because my friends and I say, we're like, oh, we're gonna put a pin in it, like put a pin in
Yep.
it. So it's so interesting. Like it becomes this like, I don't want to say mind fuck, but like this vortex of things occurring where it's like
Yes.
neither one of us can deny that
Yes.
this is not from another source. Like it's
Yes.
not just your subconscious, like, actually, I do want to charge, blah, blah, blah. Or actually, I do want this partner. Like, no, this is really channeling from the records.
Agreed. Agreed. And I think that's why like a big part of so the higher self awakening program that I do, it's so that women can like open back up their own intuitive channel.
Right.
But a huge part of what we do in that program is coaching on how to decipher between their own ego, their own inner child, and what the higher self sounds like or feels like. Because
Mm,
I say like half the time you guys are actually like so many of the women that come into the program, they're actually really intuitive, but they have a really good sneaky ego who comes in and says, oh no, 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 that's not possible,
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
speaks up. And so we have to do a lot of distinguishing of, yes, we all have this internal mind chatter, right? Our inner dialogue, our inner voice. And you do have to begin doing this inner dialogue with yourself to better figure out, oh, that feels like fear. Oh, this feels like higher self source wisdom. Um,
Yeah.
and and I tell women it's oftentimes like we have to strengthen that intuitive muscle to be able to receive clear messages.
Yeah. And also it's like building confidence too. Like
Yes.
it's all related to confidence and worthiness and like getting that subconscious shit out of the way. Like I feel like
Yes.
I'm 33. So for me, I grew up in the 2000s where it was just like you're fat, you're ugly, like you have to
Yep.
wear this type of perfume and this type of clothes for people to like you. Like
Yep.
and
You have to
that
look a
was
certain
yeah,
way.
yeah, look a certain way. Like, whoa, we were really under the gun there. Like
Ooh. Yeah.
yikes. And I'm not saying other people don't have other problems in other generations. I'm speaking from my lived experience. It was really intense, like looking at 17 magazine and like praying that do I have the right lip gloss? I don't know. So there's like a lot of us that are in need of that like okay, I want to live an intuitive life. I want to
Yes.
live a life free of my ego. But like how do I even flex that muscle or how do I work that muscle? Like I got to
Yes.
get that confidence piece too.
Absolutely. And I think that's why more of us are awakening to our own soul mission and purpose. More of us are trying to turn around and help the next gal. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. Oh
we're
yeah,
doing these and
sister
putting it
wound
out
healing.
there. Yes, because I think we're all also learning how to heal together in community. So I think
Hmm.
that's why like some it's like I know sometimes people are like, "Oh, Maria, just give me the 10 steps or whatever it is, right? Like give me the
Yeah.
10 steps to open my own intuition. Just tell me how and I'll go do it on my own." And while like I would be totally fine with that, I think at the end of the day, we're also learning how to be in community and in relationship with each other again.
Right.
So I know for myself, the 7 year ago me, who was not intuitive, didn't really have the confidence, didn't believe in my soul self, sure, someone could have given me the 20-page manual if there was one.
Yeah.
And I still think I would have just kept second guessing myself, second guessing, and oh
Of course.
no. So it's just to remind women too, it's not a I don't know. I think some people think like, oh, you just want my money. And it's like, no, I really actually want to support you through this. Like there is value in coming into relationship with other women
Hmm.
who are also on the soul journey, awakening to their soul selves. Because I just think we have a lot of those sisterhood wounds to also heal.
Yeah. And that was actually going to be my next question, which you answered so beautifully, was like, okay, so say you take somebody on this record, like how could they do it by themselves? Or like what is the
Mhm.
advantage of doing it with somebody versus doing it by themselves? And you've
Yeah.
answered it beautifully. It's that like you need like in the beginning, or even
Yes.
maybe not even the beginning, maybe just at a time in your life, like entering into that space with a coach, a container, a vessel of transformation, like something where your energy is like shifted. Like you've shown the
Yes.
universe, like I want to learn, I want to know how, and I want to be so fucking good at it that like nobody can take that away from me. Like
Yes.
sometimes it just requires you to be in the space with someone else so they can
Yes.
just reflect that brilliance back to you. Is that kind of what you found?
100%. And they can witness. I think there is something in the power of someone else witnessing you in your power.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think it's been so interesting. Women can be in the program and they're like, Bria, I'm channeling. Like I got a download last night, And it's
yeah. Yeah,
like,
you did.
I
Yeah.
think there's power in being able to share that with others and for me to reflect back and say, yeah, exactly. Like, heck yes, you did. Yes, you are a channel. Of course, you don't need me. You don't need anybody else. The answers are all within you. And I just think it's great to be able to reinforce that with each other when you're
Hmm.
like deciding. I think all of us decide at certain stages I am remembering. I am remembering that I am a soul having a human experience.
Hmm.
And I know
Yeah.
there's like for a while where we can all waver in that. I know for me, I feel like I really powerfully re-remembered that I'm a soul having a human experience just in the last 2 years. It's really just become awake to me. But
Mm.
before then, it was easy for my ego to be like, I think this is all BS. I think we're just making this all up.
Yeah.
Like,
Of
it
course,
takes
that's
some time.
easier. It's easier. And like the subconscious loves easy. It loves like safe,
Yes.
looking for a
What's
problem
familiar?
to fix. Yeah. What feels familiar? I'll go back to that. Thank you. So when did your like awakening occur? Like when did you step into this work or like how long have you been doing it, working with clients? Like what does that look like for you? Going from occupational therapy to Akashic Records healer is like a big jump. I
Yeah.
mean, I made
Yeah.
the same jump, so I'm with you, but
Yes.
like
You get
tell
it.
me what
You
it
get
looked
it.
like.
Yeah. So I say I feel like I started the journey that was like gonna be unfolding around 2015, 2016. And I can resonate with some of your sentiment you were saying earlier, but I was in a dream job. I was working as an occupational therapist for the number one hospital in the world, working at Mayo Clinic.
Mhm.
And my parents, they had like coached me all through life that this was it. This was the pinnacle. You just got to get a
Yeah.
good paying healthcare job with excellent benefits, all all the things. And I did. I had all the things at that time and I was miserable.
Yeah.
So I'd been working there for 3 months, then 6 months, then 9 months. And I'm like, well, one day maybe this will feel fulfilling. Maybe I'll feel satisfied.
Yeah.
But if I was honest with myself, I was like in my deepest, darkest hole. I hated it.
Hmm.
And for so many reasons, right? I understand a lot of my colleagues work in the hospital and they enjoyed it, but it wasn't for me. But I felt like I was crazy because everybody had told me
Yeah. And you
this
had
was
a
it.
degree probably that you paid for
Yes, I had
that you had
finished.
to like pay off. Like, well, now what?
Yes. Yes, I was and that's just it too. Like you feel like, "Oh my gosh, I have like a mountain of debt to pay for my master's program. What do I do?" I followed an intuitive nudge that at the time I wouldn't have really called that, but I was really just so depressed that I was like, I have to leave. I can't work here.
Yeah.
I was not confident enough at that point or certain enough to leave healthcare altogether. So from there, I kind of jumped around other healthcare, other settings, outpatient, skilled nursing rehab, like just trying all these other settings, hoping to find that thing.
Hmm.
And while I was doing that, I was also starting to do the inner work. I was starting to like sign up for mindset coaching. I tried traditional therapy. I had my first Reiki energy session. So I
Hmm.
feel like this was my, soul self trying to like, get me warmed up to these things.
Come here.
They're like, come on, come on.
Yeah.
I was resisting for a while. Somewhere along that journey, I feel like I wanted to start my own business, but I was still really stuck in my own head, my own subconscious programs of I could never do that. my parents don't believe in me. They're going to think I'm crazy, all of these things.
Yeah.
And so I realized then the universe put me in a work setting at the time, then around 2020, 2021. It was a really toxic work environment.
Hmm.
A lot of my own wounds were being triggered. A lot of just shit was coming up. There was like this imbalance between leadership and the staff. Ultimately, I had to make a choice. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm about to break. And that's around when my son was around that 2 to 3 age. It just felt like everything was crumbling. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to leap. I'm going to leap and I'm going to trust.
Hmm.
So thankfully, I was able to find part time employment at a different place and started my business.
Yeah, nice.
And within that, it's like by that time I had done again some traditional therapy, some Reiki, some I was working with like a Reiki shaman healer. I had done a soul retrieval, and I was like, okay, I may be open to this stuff, you know. The biggest thing is when I started my business, I also thought that I could make my business vanilla, meaning I was like, I'm
Mhm.
just going to do stress management OT coaching for people. I'm going to make it vanilla-y. I'm going to make it still palatable for people.
Right.
Um, but then I entered into
Didn't
like a
work,
deeper
did it? Didn't work.
no.
No, it never works.
I was like, okay, I can't leap into entrepreneurship and now just have a vanilla business that I don't even love either, right?
Right. And
So
true, like the big thing like I talk about is that you have your soul gifts. Like you have your soul gifts and purpose. You do have your mission. If you don't say what needs to be said or speak the way that you want to speak, then no one will be able to find you. Like your frequency
yeah,
must find frequency.
yes. And then around summer of 2023, because again, it feels like it should have been longer ago. I heard like Akashic Records somewhere, and I was like, wait, I need to learn more. Tell me more. I had
Yeah.
never heard about it before. Dove down a rabbit hole. My heart was like, yes, yes, yes. And I'm like, this is insanity. My husband was like, what are you talking about? And I
Yeah.
was just like, you know what? I think I just need to do deeper healing. I think it's going to be healing for me. I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
So yeah, started my Akashic Records like certification journey, learning more about it. And that's when I truly felt my heart was like, you are home. You are
Beautiful.
at home. This is what you're meant to infuse within your business. And the second I did, everything's just been falling into place. The second I finally made the choice to be like, yes, yes, I will use my gifts. Yes, I will use this in my
Yeah.
business. Things have been lining up. So that was a long journey, but again, in little shifts, I was finally able to say, okay, yes, here we are.
Yes, it's time. And I find that so often too, like people will say like, well, I just don't want to take another course or do this. And I'm like, I totally get it. I get it. Like I would be tired of healing too, but like it's about like those are most like the universe will always provide these energetic portals of entry and it's up
Yes,
to you to like, go and leap and follow your heart and like understand that it's all leading you to where it needs to be done. So like maybe you have a tarot reading, or maybe you have like an astrology reading, or maybe you get certified in Reiki or take a wealth manifestation course, or like all those things. And
yes,
they're just all little pieces. They're not the whole puzzle, or maybe they just don't resonate with you as much as it needs to. And then, you find your way to that one thing that like really lights your fire. That's the whole point, right?
agreed, agreed. And I agree too how it's like I know some people will be like, oh, well, I tried this and it didn't work. Well, that must mean it was a mistake. And it's like, no, everything happens for a reason. Like, even though I tried traditional therapy, I don't regret trying it, even though it wasn't my favorite modality for myself, right? It was like, oh, I
Yeah.
learned a lot through that container. I learned what I did and didn't like. I knew what I wanted in a practitioner or not want. So I think each lesson teaches us something.
Yeah. And how many times, like, I feel like, so because my journey's been so accelerated, like in the last, it was like 6 months of, whoa, like, here I am. It was like, I just wanted to try everything. I was like, well, I need to know what the hell these people are talking about. Like,
Yeah.
I feel, I feel like I just needed to like get a little sample platter of everything that everyone's doing so I could like speak to it.
Yes, yes, agreed. And I also think there's a reason why. Yeah, some of us it feels like, well, I've kind of tried every modality, but I actually think it's like helped me also be a more well-rounded practitioner
Well,
because
100.
I feel
Yeah.
like yeah, and I feel like I also now know if someone comes into my field, you know how like you can also intuitively know it's like, you know what, it might not be my program that you need. However, it sounds like breath work could be really helpful, right? It's nice to kind of have a concept of what each modality is because sometimes a person will then enter your world and you're like, I feel like you could really use a sound bowl. I mean, and it's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
recommendations and
Something.
suggestions. but I
Mhm.
like having a general idea about, all the different modalities.
Yeah, and there's so like it's so amazing to we talked about this in the beginning of people like waking up. Like there are so many modalities, there are so many networks, there are so many like healing communities being established, there are so many integrations occurring. Like
Hmm.
the part of the sample platter of this intuitive work or this healing work is that like now we know each other now, like
Yes,
me and my friend who does tarot readings for my programs, like we're working collaboratively together. Like this is
yes,
my and that's the other thing is like I'm not an expert at everything. This is my zone of genius. My zone of
agreed.
genius is working with business owners and entrepreneurs and high level CEOs to get them out of hustle and into like an intuitive based business. And
Yes,
yours is like working with a similar subset, I think, but working in like the Akashic records and healing. It's like there are
yes,
different modalities, and each one of our souls incarnated for this beauty, this life, this purpose. And it's just like up to us to really refine and stay in our zone of genius and watch
agreed.
everything like pour up out of our cups.
And to like have this network then of other psychic intuitives in our circle, like I feel so much more supported. The old me was trying to people please and help everyone, right? It's
Mhm.
like, oh, I'll learn that modality so that I can help you. Like this was just in my old OT career, right? I
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to help everyone. It feels like I'm in a much healthier state that now, like you said, I know that this is my zone of genius. I love doing the healing piece. And when someone comes to me, Maria, can you open my Akashic Records so that we can do a business strategy session or whatever? I'm like, that's not like my favorite cup of tea. I tried it. Like I honestly thought, oh, maybe I'll have that be one of my offerings, but it
yeah.
didn't feel in alignment. It didn't feel
Yeah.
like that's where my gifts are going to be used in this lifetime. So I love knowing other women who are using those gifts in their ways because it's like, great, I have a network of psychic
Yeah.
intuitives. I
Referrals.
know, yes, exactly. And I truly, there's like a group of girlfriends who I feel like, they're like soul sisters who I've known before that I know now locally. But, we've gone in and we've done some like Atlantis, like healings.
Yeah.
Because I just think different parts along all of our timelines, whether it's Atlantis, whether it's been some version of like the Salem witch trials, women stopped trusting each other.
Hmm.
We started looking at each other like competition, and also the patriarchy further embeds that like, oh nope, it's got to be
I
this
was gonna say
competition
it's like a
between all of
male
us.
like a belief, but it
Yeah.
is a belief. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I just think it's a beautiful time to be on this planet where I think we're all learning and we're all healing and we're all trying to come together again to be like, look, we can work together in collaboration. Like there's more than enough people on the planet. And I think all of us have that same mission. We want to raise the vibration of the planet. We want to help human consciousness evolve.
Oh yeah, that's like the end goal. It's like all about
Yes.
like the transcendence and the ascension and so beautiful. So
Yes.
what would you say to somebody listening to this that's like, oh, like I think I'm a little intuitive. I don't know. I don't really like I feel like this episode's going to attract a lot of healthcare workers. So like
Yes.
I don't really like my healthcare job. Like I wish I was psychic or I wish I had that. Like what is some advice that you would give them and like to take that like step or not take the step? I don't know. What's your advice?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I recommend healthcare providers and also like that type A driven women who we tend to tell ourselves, oh, I don't think I'm intuitive. Like that doesn't really make sense to me because we've been so used to operating in our hyper masculine, like the
Mhm.
go, 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 logic and reason. So my biggest thing, like as starter steps, is if you feel like you have some intuition, you are. Like trust that, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you feel like
First
you do, you
step.
are. Yep. Have begin to ingrain that belief that you are intuitive. And then number two, it's like an early step, but it's learning how to quiet your own mind chatter. Because
Yeah.
oftentimes why they're struggling with tuning into their intuition is because of all the busy mind chatter that's happening, the inner critic, the ego, the inner child. So the reason why, like I say in my bio, I was a former nervous system regulation expert is because before I dived into all the soul woo stuff, I just had to figure out how to tame my own anxiety. And so I
Yeah.
used a lot of nervous system somatic regulation techniques.
Yeah.
And that was my specialty for my clients, but also I was just doing it for myself.
Yeah.
So I would just
It was a
recommend,
purely selfish endeavor at start, but that's okay. We ended
it really
we
was, right?
needed to start there first for sure.
We're like, I got to figure this out.
Yeah,
So
same.
learning tools to get out of the mind chatter is so helpful for women to reconnect to our bodies
Hmm.
and ground in and find what kind of just starts to bring you that calm is a starter step to being able to begin to like hear and connect with your intuition. Because otherwise, if we've just got that mind chatter going, it's going to be hard to get, think of like a radio. You're not going to be able to tune into the right channel if you've got all that static.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
My friend and I, we were joking, and she's like going to help me do, you might hear her do like the intro to this podcast, or she's going to do a podcast with me. She's just a intuitive, fun-loving gal that doesn't have time to start a business, but she's in on the thing. And we were
Oh, I love
talking
it.
about like when I started my business, I was like, I don't know, I the same way. I kind of wanted to make it vanilla, kind of wanted everybody to be included. I was like, well, I
Yeah.
don't know, should I start it like that? Should I say this? And she's so funny. She was like, girl, the pipeline from like I'm like logical AF to like I'm definitely a witch is so short. She's like, it does not take women very long or men too. It just doesn't take people very long to be like, I believe it. I believe in that.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't. So if you have any inkling that like you have intuition or your intuition's playing in the background, like it is. Like that's just
Yes.
full stop. Like it is. And if you're like, I kind of think I like resonate with my horoscope, you do. Like that's just
Yeah.
it. It's just the pipeline is so short.
Agreed. Agreed. And I think once we get on the other side of it, we've landed in complete land of woo. Like we're all the
Yeah.
way in. I think it is hard. Like we do look back. I look back at myself of 7 years ago, 5 years ago, and I think it is hard to like be like, oh, what did I need that? I mean, and that's what we're trying to do in our businesses. How do we
Mhm.
chat with the woman who's maybe just two steps over here and get her through that pipeline to like, no, you are intuitive. You have so much magic inside of you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so much is possible. Anything is possible.
It just gets to be so good, like so juicy, so delicious. Like you go from that burnt out state, like I mean, I would like wake up and like cry every day that I had to go to work. And now it's
Yes,
like now I wake up and like everything's great and like my kids are calm and like I go to the gym after I drop them off and I do a couple hours of work and my husband comes home. We're having a great day. It's like you like talked to me 9 months ago. I never would have thought that that was going to happen. Like I never thought that was
yes,
even a reality. Like it gets to
yes.
be so good when you lead from your heart and like stop trying to like your brain is so tired from out
Yes.
logicking yourself. Like you just gotta stop and
Yep.
just put a freaking pin in it. You know what I mean?
That's
So
perfect. That's
yeah, that was woo, that was
yeah.
good.
That
Drop.
was that was a
Yeah.
really good moment. Yes.
So tell me, like, tell our listeners, like, what is it like to work with you? What containers do you have open? Like,
Yes.
who are you attracting? What are you calling into your vortex right now?
Yes, absolutely. So if women are really wanting to, if you're listening to this, you feel like you're intuitive, but there's blocks, you feel like you're intuitive, but there's maybe a fear of tapping into your full power, I do recommend getting into the container Higher Self Awakening. Doors open in the middle of January. If you go to higherselfawakening.com, you can learn more about this 10-week healing container where we really do the subconscious and past life healing so that you can open up to your own intuitive channel. I also I just launched it this December. I launched a membership for women who are just like dabbling in their spirituality and intuition. So you just like you're open, you're curious, you're on a spiritual journey, but you'd like a community of women to tap into. That's called the Awaken Souls membership. And so that also I love just inviting women into the circle, into this journey. And sometimes it's honestly to connect them to another resource, right? Another mentor, another thing. But I just think we as women, when we realize we're not alone in this journey, you're not crazy, like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
not on this journey alone, it begins to feel a lot better. So those are some ways that women who are on this journey, and I tend to work with the female entrepreneurs, the change makers, the leaders, like similar to like you said, but not so much on the business strategy, really just to reconnect them to that intuitive channel.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. All right, so I'll have everything tagged in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Vortex, and can't wait to like plug you into my referral list. You know what I mean?
I'm so excited. Agreed, Kathleen. I'm so excited that our worlds collided. We both know it's not by chance. And
Never.
thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Thanks for coming. Have a great day.
You too.